And obviously the first noticeable difference from the grass and dirt at Baltimore to the AstroTurf in Philadelphia with Tony Perez. The big story with Rose on the bench. Perez gets the start at first base. It'll be Joe Morgan at second, who hit a home run in game 1. The shortstop is Ivan De Jesus. And the third baseman, as usual, is Mike Schmidt. Now, Schmidt is 0 for 8 in the World Series thus far, and Howard talked to Schmidt about how he's been swinging the bat so far.
Howard, I'm swinging the bat good. I mean, I can feel when I'm hitting, when I'm not doing things right, when I'm jumping at the ball, or I'm pulling my hands forward, or I'm taking a lot of pitches, and I'm under aggressive or over aggressive. I don't feel anything right now as a hitter that I'm not doing, you know, that I want to be doing. The only thing I might be doing against Boddicker a little bit was trying to hit the ball a little too far and trying to lift it a couple times. My timing is perfect. I got a couple of strikeouts. I don't know what to tell you. I'm going to hit.
Well, Mike Schmidt has done enough hitting throughout the course of his career, and the Phillies would like to see a little bit more punch from him. But he's happy with the way he's swinging anyway. We'll find out tonight if it pays off. Gary Matthews is in left in center field. Where they've been platooning tonight, it's Gary Maddox. We saw Greg Gross out there the other night against Boddicker, the right-hander, and they also platoon in right. Sixto Lizcano. The start tonight with Bo Diaz back of the plate, and the only man to win the Cy Young Award 4 times in his career, Steve Carlton on the mound. A losing record, but as you can see, a very good walk to strikeout ratio. And he'll start things by facing the switch-hitting center fielder, John Shelby, who platoons with Al Bunbury. The first pitch of the game is fouled away. Shelby 1 for 3 in the World Series thus far. Came in the second game as a pinch hitter and remained in the game. Fouls this one away, so he goes up there swinging at Carlton's first 2 pitches. It's interesting in the sense so much has been said about Carlton's slider and how it drops out of the strike zone. A lot of times they'll go up there taking, but not Shelby, and down he goes. He took the wrong pitch.
Well, we saw some power pitching right there. It doesn't look like Steve Carlton's going to worry about location with a lot of these hitters. He just came out firing. He threw 3 straight fastballs. Shelby didn't catch up with the first 2 and took the third one.
So 1 out in the first inning, and it brings up Dan Ford. Dan Ford 1 for 4, but of course the play he figured in most prominently in this series the other night when he was hit in the face by a Willie Hernandez pitch, remained in the game, takes inside for a ball. Ford likes to crowd the plate. Dan making his second start in the series. Remember, we saw Jim Dwyer in game 1 in right field, and Dwyer hit a home run. 1-1 the count.
There's that good hard fastball, a little bit up and out the strike zone, but it's got a lot on it.
Steve Carlton, who ended the regular season with 300 lifetime wins. Missing away. He also has 200 lifetime losses. So exactly a 600% lifetime for the man who is simply known around here as Lefty. 3-1 now the count. There are some questions about Carlton physically, about his back. He came out of the game against the Dodgers last weekend with back spasms, and reportedly it took about an hour for Carlton to recover as it's grounded to short, and De Jesus throws him out. That is recover in the sense that the back spasms were gone. He also saw a chiropractor in Baltimore earlier this week, and some of the Phillies in the clubhouse questioning whether Carlton is 100% as he comes into the game tonight.
Well, during the first inning, he's throwing that fastball hard, and if the Orioles were expecting anything tricky, they can forget about it. At least it looks like the first time around the yarder.
Cal Ripken. Ripken, interestingly, has a hit in all of the postseason games. The 4 against Chicago in the playoffs and the 2 thus far in the World Series. But he's done very little damage, missing outside as you look at the hero from Wednesday night, Mike Boddicker, allowing just 1 run, that coming off a shutout in the playoffs. So two brilliant performances by the rookie right-hander in postseason. Off speed, that's a strike, and had Ripken fooled. 1-1.
And really, I couldn't tell if that was his good hard slider or not. It was on the inside half of the plate. It broke into a right-handed hitter. That one looked more like a curveball than that hard slider he throws under the hand.
It was. He throws a lot harder than that when he wants to, as it's fouled away. Off to the right and out of play, in the count, 1 ball and 2 strikes.
Now is when Carlton likes to use that good hard slider. Down around the right-handed hitter's ankles.
And off times, that pitch will wind up out of the strike zone. So if you can, you try to lay off. Easier said than done. Ripken ripping it foul.
Got it up just a little bit. However, Cal was way ahead of it.
2 out, bases empty in the top of the first inning. Picked a good day for the off day. It poured here last night. 1-2 to Ripken. Got him swinging on a pitch that broke out of the strike zone, and he couldn't hold up in time. No evidence of any back problem, at least in the first inning, as we go out. Another look at Ripken swinging at a prototypical Steve Carlton pitch. Low and inside. That one was even in the dirt.
That's the one we talked about, and that's the one they're going to have to lay off of if they're going to hit Steve Carlton.
After a half, Baltimore nothing, and the Phillies coming up. Baltimore defensively, the Orioles taking the field with Eddie Murray at first base. And Rich Dauer again at second base, the everyday second baseman. Cal Ripken played every inning of every game this season. He's the shortstop. And the third baseman is Todd Cruz, who was acquired from the Mariners in mid-year. In the outfield, where they platoon, Gary Roenicke gets the start in left field. He gets his first start with Lowenstein having played games 1 and 2, and then with Bunbury the starter in 1 and 2 at Shelby tonight in center. And Danny Ford in right. Rick Dempsey has caught all 3 games. And on the mound is Mike Flanagan. This is the first time in the history of the World Series that 2 former Cy Young Award winners have opposed each other. Carlton has won 4. Flanagan won the award in 1979. The big story about Flanagan, of course, this year, the fact that he missed about 2.5 months with severely strained ligaments in his left knee, and in fact pitches with a brace, an aluminum brace that's been rigged up. And Earl weighed it in the clubhouse before the game, and it's about 2.5 pounds.
It's an ugly looking contraption.
Well, there's no question it's going to affect his fielding agility. We should find out early on about Mike.
He starts Morgan with a fastball for a strike, 0-1.
Altobelli had a major decision whether or not to start Storm Davis tonight or this man. He went with the veteran.
Outside, he will be going with Davis tomorrow, and that's a switch hour, in as much as initially he indicated he might go with a 3-man rotation. Morgan shatters his bat and bounces it down to second, and Dauer throws him out. So one second baseman takes care of the other, and with 1 down, it'll bring up Sixto Lizcano. It's interesting that the Orioles initially were going to go with a 3-man rotation and the Phillies 4. And in fact, the exact reverse will take place, because the Phillies are going to bring Denny back tomorrow instead of the originally scheduled Bystrom.
That's an interesting twist. In the meantime, the Phillies are at home, and the fences loom awfully close, and it is artificial turf. So the advantages would seem to be lodged in critical senses as you look at strike 1 with the Phils. At the same time, as Reggie pointed out, while Schmidt hasn't begun yet, neither has Murray.
Well, it's definitely a hitter's park, Howard, and if there's runs going to be scored in the series, they should be scored here.
1 ball, 1 strike. As you look around, interestingly, the dimensions are relatively standard here. It's a chopper foul. It's not a case of a Fenway Park or a Wrigley with the wind blowing out. It's 330 down the lines, 371 to the alleys, which is a little shorter than normal, 408 to center. But the ball, since day 1 in this park, has just flown out of here.
It jumps out of here because wind is not a factor. That ball will be out of play.
And so it remains 1 ball and 2 strikes. I've never heard any hitter complain about Veterans Stadium.
No.
Love the background, love the atmosphere, the way the ball carries out of here.
Getting back to Joe Altobelli choosing to start a 4th starter, I think when the series started, he was a little apprehensive about he might have to pinch pinch hit for his pitchers early and use up his bullpen. The way the starting pitching's going now, I think he can relax a little bit as far as that's concerned. He can bring Storm Davis in out of the bullpen and give his pitchers another day's rest.
Paul Owens talking with a trainer, Jeff Cooper, who made his switch. That's grounded to short. And Ripken over to Murray. 2 down. What it means, if you look ahead, it means that if you go to a 7th game on Wednesday, assuming there are no rainouts, as Mike Schmidt comes up, you'd have John Denny on the mound for Philadelphia, and you'd have Flanagan on the mound for Baltimore, if they stay in this rotation.
If he stays in this rotation.
Well, here's Schmidt.
He says he's going to hit.
I believe him, too.
And he can do it at any time. But what he didn't say was, we'll get to it in a second,
Fastball on the outside corner.
that after Schmidt had hit 3 balls solidly in the first game of the series, the Birds changed their pitching pattern on him, didn't they?
Yes, they did. He hit 2 balls hard. First 2 times up, line drives that were on the outside half of the plate. Then they start going inside and outside, and Mike wound up chasing a couple high fastballs out of the strike zone. I saw the first pitch that Flanagan threw to Mike was on the outside half of the plate. The next ball was a breaking ball down and in.
2 out, bases empty. We're in the bottom of the first inning. No score. And the 1-1 pitch is a breaking ball hit high in the air. Shelby makes the catch, and the side is retired. So he took enough off of it that Schmidt was out in front. He skies to center, and we've played 1 in Philly. Baltimore nothing, the Phillies nothing. Eddie Murray will lead off in the 2nd inning. Reggie, you know what this is like. As we get a comment from Reggie Jackson, what's he thinking coming up here?
Well, I talked to Eddie Murray before the ball game, Al, and he, for the first time in the series, I think seemed to be a lot more relaxed and kind of jovial, having a good time and joking around. Eddie does believe that he has to go about things the way that he goes about them and not change and try to be someone else. He's a laid-back guy. He's a shy guy. I know for me in the World Series that I've been in, as you did say and Earl pointed out, I was 1 for 6 one time. I remember in the playoffs against Milwaukee, I was 2 for 11. All of a sudden, I was 3 for 4 the last game, which made me 4 for 14 or 5 for 14, and I wound up being a hero. So you can't count these big guys out.
And Murray lines it just foul outside third.
If a big guy like this, a cleanup hitter, doesn't bring the paycheck home, it's like the breadwinner not bringing the paycheck home on Friday night. No home runs and no RBIs.
Well, Murray could be very hopeful that this will be the exact opposite of the '79 series. People remember Eddie had a terrible series, but what they forget is that he did hit in the first 2 games. So maybe he'll reverse it. He hopes so anyway. 2-1 the count.
Nothing wrong with that man. I was with him before the game. I've never seen a greater baseball player anytime, anywhere. Paul Anka may have written the song for him, but Sinatra had the voice, so he sang it.
Well, there were 56 straight games. He didn't go into a slump. We know that for sure.
Ran it in on his hands. The good slider, and the count is 2 balls and 2 strikes. Murray, switch hitter. Eddie hit .306 during the regular season. 33 homers. He's been remarkably consistent in home runs and runs batted in through the years. But down he goes here. Carlton just took enough off of it, and Murray strikes out. So Steve Carlton has started by striking out 3 of the first 4.
Same pitch, slider down in, a little bit under the hands. He's got 3 out of 4 up to this point, and I don't know if you can lay off of that pitch or not.
Well, I'll tell you this, Carlton is a phenomenon. The older he got, the more batters he struck out. Totally against the trend. For instance, this season he struck out 275. In the early years, he struck out an average of 6+ per game. As you look at another called strike, in the later years, more than 8+ per game. Simply, as I said, a pitching phenomenon.
And of course, the all-time strikeout leader, passing Walter Johnson this year. There it is again. We can keep saying slider, and what he does, and you can see it on television. I think you have enough depth perception to know that he varies the speed on it.
He definitely did. That one was a lot slower, and the reason we have to keep saying slider is he's going to keep throwing it all night if he has success with it.
Well, you get the idea. Pitch in the dirt, and the count 1-2.
You know, it's the same type of thing that Ron Guidry can do to you now. Ron Guidry learned his slider from Sparky Lyle. He's got that good hard fastball you have to worry about, and then throws that slider different speeds under your hands.
You must not chase this man. That's been the hitting problem of Cal Ripken Jr. in this series. Over-eager, chasing pitches.
That's grounded to the left side. Ivan de Jesus is there. He has a strong arm and exhibits it. And there are 2 away here in the 2nd inning. So if Carlton was bothered by those back spasms last Saturday night, he certainly shows no evidence thus far this evening. And there is John Lowenstein, of course, the hero and one of the heroes in Game 2, the offensive star certainly. But in the platoon situation, well, it was Maddox who had the game-winning hit on Tuesday, and he was on the bench on Wednesday. That's grounded to short off the bat of DAUER, and Steve Carlton has started by retiring the first 6. 3 on grounders to short, and he has struck out the other 3. And so the Phillies will come up in the bottom of the 2nd. There's no score at Veterans Stadium. Well, the Goodyear Blimp had an easy ride up from Baltimore. It's only 96 miles. It took 4 hours, and that's the sight that Don McDuff and Charlie Mitchell are getting for us tonight as you look down into Veterans Stadium, a ballpark that opened in 1971, a multi-purpose stadium, and also serving as the home of the Philadelphia Eagles and the USFL Philadelphia Stars. And for the last few years, they've been playing the Army-Navy game here as Gary Matthews fouls it away. Though this year, the Army-Navy game will be played at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena.
Earl, I suggest that Flanagan already knows he can't afford one mistake tonight, the way Carlton looks.
That's exactly right. He knows it. He's watched Carlton pitch 2 innings, but there might be one mistake.
It's gone. High in the air. It's got a chance, and it is gone.
There's one mistake. I hope he can't afford to make another one now.
Gary Matthews, who has not had the happiest of seasons. He too for a while was out of the lineup and was being platooned, but you'd never know it if you'd only watched the Phillies in postseason play. Hero of the playoffs, home run tonight.
Here's the pitch. Looked like a fastball above the belt that Matthews was ready for. He got the bat out in front and he hit it a very long way.
This is a swing with which we're becoming very familiar. The way he gets rid of that bat in a hurry. Remember in the playoffs last week, he clipped Yeager after he did a home run. Tony Perez takes outside. 1-0.
Tony was as embarrassed as Rose about being named to play tonight. He knows full well that it was Pete Rose who talked Bill Giles into getting him, Tony, with the Phillies.
And that's hit sharply into center field for a base hit. So Perez is aboard. Everything obviously, Howard, magnified because it's the World Series, but here in Philadelphia, you'll recall in mid-season, Perez was actually starting in place of Rose when Corrales was the manager for a while.
That is absolutely true. And as I noted in the pregame show, Tony has had uncommon success during his American League tenure against Mike Flanagan.
He certainly has. He hit .375, and it's tough to keep a .375 hitter against a certain pitcher on the bench.
Good breaking ball to Gary Maddox, and the count is 0-1.
Then you would have done what Owens did.
I would have.
Okay.
Flanagan, only 10 home runs allowed by Mike this season, though he did miss half the year. And you can see he gives up most of them early, and maybe one here, but no. Foul. Hooking foul off the bat of Maddox, who homered Tuesday night.
Yes, and one of the reasons that Mike gives up those home runs early, it takes him an inning or 2 to get that breaking ball established. He went with more fastballs than I thought he would in the first inning. Now he's trying to get some breaking balls over, but they're not in good spots.
0-2. Perez no threat to be running at first, and it's in the dirt, and the count is 1 ball and 2 strikes. Perez no threat to be running, that is in a steal sense, as it's grounded foul. Conceivably, if the count goes to 3-2.
What a catch the fan made.
If the count goes to 3-2, we could see Perez going to perhaps stay out of a double play.
DiMaggio enjoyed that play.
1 ball, 2 strikes, the count. In the air to center field. And Shelby waiting for it. Puts it away for the out. One away here in the second inning. And now I'll take a look at Bo Diaz with Perez at first.
Got to be very careful with this man, especially in this ballpark. You must not give him the high pitch.
Diaz with good power, 15 home runs during the regular season. And he was second to Schmidt in runs batted in for the Phillies with 64. One out with Perez at first. Low for a ball. In his customary spot, there is Jim Palmer. He is the long man tonight. Now he's just getting in some work in the bullpen, perhaps doing more than that the way the second inning has commenced for Flanagan.
You can bet he's doing more than that, Al.
A strike and the count 1-1. Palmer has out the belly, looks on, has been relegated to the long man role in the bullpen.
But he is a canny pitcher, moves the ball around, even if his arm isn't what once it was, though he says it is now.
They send Perez on a hit and run, and it's grounded foul outside third. And the count 1-2. As we mentioned, Perez not in a straight steal sense, but they'll send him on the hit and run because Diaz is a contact hitter.
Meantime, you mentioned Diaz has 15 home runs, 9 of them hit here. These Phils love the home ballpark.
Well, as we mentioned earlier, Howard, they go out of here a lot easier than they do in a lot of parks.
That's fouled away again. 1 ball, 2 strikes to count.
Phils led the National League in home game results, 151, lost only 30. Did it for the second year in a row.
In the air to center field. And Shelby's been relatively busy already tonight. That's his third putout. 2 away in the second inning. And the batter will be Ivan De Jesus.
Well, Mike's had a couple balls hit hard off. Mike Flanagan has had a couple balls hit hard, but his fastball does seem to have pretty good movement on it.
Flanagan came out of the playoff game after he worked 5 innings against Chicago. Of course, they have to keep in mind that he's coming off the injury. He missed 2.5 months, has the brace, and they're really looking for about 6 innings out of him. Steve Carlton, a good hitting pitcher, on deck. Two out with Perez at first base, and De Jesus takes low and in for a ball.
Well, this certainly isn't a hit and run situation here with the pitcher up next. Perez on first base, 2 outs.
Also, Tony doesn't want to stray very far. Flanagan has twice in his career led the American League in pickoffs. In the air to shallow right field and dropping in a hurry for a base hit. Perez will go to third as the throw comes in, and he is safe because the ball gets away from Cruz and then down to second, and safe there goes De Jesus.
I'll tell you, that was a great throw from right field. They had him, but the ball did get away as Al described it.
Otherwise, they probably do get him. The third base umpire getting in position, and you'll see it on the replay. Dutch Rennert looked like he's about ready to call him out.
The ball wasn't hit hard. It's hit easy to right field. That's what made Perez decide to go to third in the first place. It bounced high. Dan Ford made a good jump, got himself balanced, and made a good throw at third base. Here comes Tony coming into third base, and he's out by a good 4 or 5 steps. However, Cruz was not able to hang on to the ball as he reached out, tagged him on the left knee. That's an excellent shot.
And you can see Rennert, he was about ready to come up with a thumb and then waited, and the ball was jarred loose. So runners at second and third, and Carlton takes outside.
And this is a big hitting pitcher. Lefty or righty, Steve Carlton can hit.
Well, Flanagan has an outstanding sidearm curveball. The first 2 pitches were fastballs, but here's a situation where the game could be broken right open. I would think he'd go to his best pitch here.
Carlton, no slouch, 204 career average, good for a pitcher, and 11 lifetime home runs. Grounds it foul.
That last statistic is the one I had in mind. 11 lifetime home runs.
And Howard, I think that Mike Flanagan will be throwing that sidearm curveball right here on this pitch.
1 ball, 2 strikes, and it comes inside. A little slow breaking ball. Yep. 2-2 the count. Perez the runner at third, and it's DeJesus at second. And Carlton hits a ground ball down to Eddie Murray. So Flanagan is able to escape further damage. By the way, they've given Cruz an error on the play at third, and that's the totals in the second inning. A run, 3 hits, 1 error, 2 men left on. So on a home run by Gary Matthews, the Phillies lead the Orioles 1-0, end of 2 in Game 3. Howard Cosell and Earl Weaver with you. Game 3, the third inning. Philadelphia on top 1-0, and Todd Cruz to lead off against Steve Carlton. Cruz, Dempsey, and Flanagan. Carlton has set down the first 6. Fouled away, and it's 0-1 on Todd, who had 199 combined with Seattle and Baltimore during the regular year. Carlton has struck out 3 to this point, and he's 1 strike away from making it 4. He's ahead 0-2. So the first time through the lineup in particular, Carlton looking extremely sharp as each of the Orioles take their first look at a legend. They know what's coming, but there's not a whole lot obviously you can do with it.
Well, they really don't, because Carlton throws the ball so hard, Al, that you have to have that fastball in the back of your mind.
And the count 2-2.
There were 2 of them on the outside half of the plate. He tried to make perfect pitches with them, but now he'll probably come back with that slider.
He does, but misses inside. The point is that even if you look for that slider, I mean, the scouting report is very simple. Try to lay off that pitch. It's been the scouting report on Carlton for 10 years. Some good it's done. This one's in the dirt. So Steve looked like he had some trouble. He might have slipped or caught his spikes on the slope of the mound as he throws one in the dirt. You can see Carlton is pawing at the dirt. And that's the first walk issued by Carlton.
Low and in the dirt. He did slip just a little bit, as we can see right there. The ball might have hit Cruz in the leg. I can't tell right there if it hit Cruz or if it went back and hit the catcher, but he'd get first base either way.
Well, for the moment, it's been ruled a walk, and up comes Dempsey. 231 during the regular season. His average, a strike, 0-1.
I want to say something about that 231. Rick Dempsey, during the course of a ball game, is one fella who will adjust. If he feels he can't hit that slider, he might walk right up to the front of the box. He might just keep going to him and try to get it before it breaks.
Grounded to the hole. Nice stop by DeJesus to Morgan. He can still turn it, and he does. Ivan DeJesus ranging to the hole, and Joe Morgan at the age of 40 still can get it out of the glove in a hurry and takes care of Dempsey.
Time to play perfectly. Dempsey hit this ball hard to the left of DeJesus. He came up with it, a good throw to second base, and Joe can still get rid of it.
And Rick isn't the fastest in the world getting to first, but you made the critical comment about Dempsey. He adjusts.
Flanagan is the batter. 0-1.
Play by Ivan, evidence of why Pete Rose has called him the most valuable Philly this year.
And there is Pete in what used to be a very uncustomary spot, the dugout, but not so this season. Certainly so, surprisingly, tonight. 1 ball, 2 strikes on this mismatch. And where did that one miss? Carlton ready to move to the dugout.
Well, I talked to Flanagan a little bit before the game, and he wasn't too happy about going up against a 300-game winner who throws left-handed.
Took a decent swing there. Relatively good cut. 2-2 the count.
For these Philly fans, some 65,000 of them, a reminder of the last World Series game played here on October 21st, 1980. Won by the Phils over the Royals 4-2. Carlton worked the first 7 innings, became the winning pitcher. He had relief help from Tug McGraw, and there's another strike.
He gets Flanagan on a 3-2 pitch. That's 4 strikeouts. He's faced the minimum 9 after 2.5. It's 1-0 Philadelphia.
If you're a smoker, inside this little can
Tomorrow on The Love Boat, Jamie Farr goes overboard for Heather Locklear, and Gopher's held captive by a man-hungry woman. Tomorrow at 9, 8 Central and Mountain.
We're back, fourth inning, and John Shelby has just led off a moment ago with this base hit, a ground single that bounced off the mound and into center field, and that's the first Baltimore hit as we start the top of the fourth inning. It's the first ball hit out of the infield off Carlton.
And I could be wrong, but I thought that Shelby had moved up a little toward the pitcher, and I think Dan Ford has also.
Dan Ford. Now, Carlton, of course, has a pickoff move that you know about. Some say it's not a move, but a balk as Dan Ford stands in. So we'll keep an eye on Shelby with Ford at the plate. Get a comment from a moment from Reggie Jackson about Dan Ford standing in this situation, Reggie, and what it's like to come back after what happened to him the other night, taking the pitch in the face.
Well, in my career, I was hit in the head 3 times, Al, and after that in 1976 with Baltimore, I went out the next day at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and had Cal Ripken throw balls at my head. This is a World Series. You're not going to come out of this ball game or any good ball game in the World Series unless you are completely down and out. Dan said the ball hit the bill of his cap and just grazed him, and he wanted to stay in the game to make sure that he was not groggy or drowsy rather than come out of the ball game. A lot of great players have missed some World Series, mainly guys like Ernie Banks and Billy Williams.
Were you particularly concerned, knowing, of course, he wears glasses the other night, Reggie?
Well, yes, I was, but most of the ball players, luckily, don't wear a strap behind, and they fly off quite readily and quite easily, Al, but it's just by chance. The first thing that he told me was when he went down, he knew he was going to get hit, and he just said, just prayed to God, I hope I'm not hurt.
And fortunately, that's the way it turned out. But Carlton now behind on him. 3 balls and no strikes with Shelby at first base. Nobody out in the fourth inning. Philadelphia on top, 2-0. And Ford almost walked into it. The pitch is high. So runners at first and second. And all of a sudden, after Carlton has no trouble through 3, he's in trouble in the fourth.
I think Earl made a critical point. It's the second time around, and Ford obviously moved up closer to the plate.
Also toward the pitcher. Now, the next thing, the last 2 pitches were definitely balls out of the strike zone, but the first 2 pitches that Carlton threw to Dan Ford were the same pitches that the Orioles were chasing the first time around the order.
Which, as I noted earlier, has been this young man's problem in the whole World Series. Over-eager, over-aggressive, chasing.
Ripken lays off that pitch, which is a borderline pitch, and the count is 1-0.
Well, they're going to have to lay off those borderline pitches, Al. They definitely will.
Schmidt was about even with a bag, and he's backing up right now in what would not figure to be a bunt situation, especially on AstroTurf.
Well, it's far too early in the game to bunt, especially since Flanagan hasn't established himself and he's getting hit hard. Also, if Ripken would bunt and get the men over to second and third, they could be very careful with Eddie Murray.
These are the fellows that have to do it for the Orioles right here. Ripken, Murray, ROENICKE, the men coming up. Phillies 2, Orioles nothing. Nobody out. We're in the fourth. 2 balls and a strike.
Well, it seems to me, Earl, the Orioles should have had a good lesson in how to hit Carlton, if you can, from all their times against Guidry.
Definitely a similar pitcher. Good hard fastball with the same type of slider.
That's just outside. Ball 3.
Much more selective this time around.
So the runner, Shelby at second, Ford at first, the way to their leads. 3-1. And he misses away. So Steve Carlton, who did not allow a ball out of the infield through the first 3, has loaded the bases with nobody out in the fourth inning, and Eddie Murray is the batter.
Well, there was a 2-0 count there on Cal Ripken Jr. One of the things a manager likes to see is Carlton reared back through that fastball. Ripken didn't get around. He fouled it off. But then Carlton came back again. The third ball and the fourth ball were not close to the plate.
Marty Bystrom, who was originally scheduled to pitch tomorrow, is the long man tonight.
Here comes Eddie Murray. Clutch situation again. Carlton in trouble. Eddie must be ready for the first pitch. Steve may lay it in there.
Infield double play depth, and he was ready, and he pops it up to the right side. If it stays fair, the infield fly rule is in effect, and Morgan makes it official. So Eddie Murray, who came up with the bases loaded the other night in the 5th inning and flied out, and with 2 men on in the 7th and grounded out, has just left 3 more, and derisively the chant goes up, Ed D, and he's angry. And
That's
he is
not
very
going to help
frustrated.
him. He is very frustrated, and he's fighting himself. And the history of Steve Carlton shows when he's in a situation like this, this is when you have to get him. Now, ROENICKE has been a great hitter against lefties.
Inside for a ball in the count, 1-0. So the bases are loaded with Shelby, good speed at third, Ford adequate at second, Ripken, good base runner at first, and it's fouled at the plate.
That's the slider again. Eddie was so frustrated because he thought he had a pitch. He did have a pitch that he thought he should have hit.
It's not going to help him.
Won't help him at all, Howard.
Two and one to count.
Sometimes words in the dugout, the harder you try, the harder it becomes.
Bounce foul, so 2 balls, 2 strikes to count on ROENICKE with DAUER on deck. Those folks down the third baseline, if you watch the playoffs, one of those guys took home about 8 balls one day.
Pitch was sinking. ROENICKE hit Carlton's pitch, not ROENICKE's pitch.
And a half swing, and they don't get the call on a pitch that was also very close to being a strike anyway.
Could have been a called strike.
First base umpire Frank Pulley saying no.
I don't know about this call.
Oh.
Don't know about that at all.
3-2 is grounded toward the hole. Schmidt is there. He goes to Morgan, 1 back to first, and PEREZ stays on the bag. Double play. Bases loaded, nobody out, and the air is out of the balloon in an instant. Mike Schmidt annually wins a Gold Glove, no problem there, and Morgan turns it over. And after 3.5 in Game 3, still 2-0 Phillies. 2-0 as we go to the bottom of the 4th inning. What do you imagine that they're thinking right now on the Baltimore bench, Howard?
Well, what you know is what the Phils are thinking. That inning shows why Steve Carlton is an all-time great pitcher and why the Phillies give him mythological proportions. In the meantime, it's impossible to measure what that takes out of a team. In this case, the Birds, when they didn't capitalize. If they were going to get Carlton, that was the time.
Not too often you have a situation where the bases are loaded and nobody out, and there's Eddie Murray, who is just having a terrible time.
Well, you know what he's thinking about.
You know, it's funny too, the fans in Philadelphia, so much has been written and said about them and how tough they are. The one thing about them, though, they are very knowledgeable and remarkably perceptive. In Baltimore, of course, the chant is lovingly Eddie, 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 and here they have picked it up derisively, and as he came out to assume his position at first base, they were chanting Eddie, Eddie, Eddie. As Maddox chases a breaking ball in the dirt, Dempsey will have to throw to first to record the out. It does.
I do not mean to indicate that Baltimore will quit, but it's got to live with them. And Murray knows that he has left 9 men on base in this, the 3rd game, and we're only in the bottom of the 4th.
It can't help, Howard, when you got 2 men on base, 3rd man walks, and you got your 4-5 hitter coming up, and you come back to the dugout dry.
Empty. It's like being on the 1-yard line with 4 shots.
Diaz grounds it foul outside third, and the count is 0-1.
Give it to this Philadelphia team. They know how to win.
Diaz, popular here last year. He came over in a deal with Cleveland, and some felt he was the Phillies' most valuable player in 1982. He tailed off offensively this year, but he's done a good, solid job for them back of the plate. Out in front, 1-2.
I read a write-up, Al, by a scribe in which he depicted these teams as basically ordinary teams, pointing out each lineup had gaping holes. And that argument can be validly made. I have no quarrel with it. But these are the best there are at what they do, and they've proved it over 162 games. So they've done something right.
There's two pretty good ball clubs out on that field, Howard.
No question.
Good players in each position. Yes, there's some weak spots. There always has been. But these are two good ball clubs. And they played good baseball. It's like you said in the second game.
That's hit to left field toward the corner and will drop in for a base hit. Diaz will take the turn. He's going to go to second, and he's also going to be out from here to Camden as Dauer holds on to it.
That's a good line.
Well, they know that Gary ROENICKE could throw. They were gambling, but there's just to point out something that we were talking about. That's a real good ball player out in left field. We'll get to see Gary. He made the decision a little bit late as to not to go after that ball. He's going to keep him on first base with one out, or at least he thought he was. He wasn't sure he was going to get on out there, but there's a perfect throw.
Beautiful throw. No question on the call, no question.
De Jesus hits it softly down toward Dauer, and that's what sometimes happens on the AstroTurf. The Orioles, of course, play on grass and dirt. They do have AstroTurf fields, obviously, in the American League, so they're somewhat used to it, but there's nothing you can do about that. When it hits the seam where the dirt meets the turf, not much chance for you.
You can definitely see this third hop take a bad hop and come right at Dauer. Right on the corner, right on the seam. He thought he was going to get it waist high, and it bounced toward his right ankle.
You know, the interesting thing about the Birds this year is they've won 16 and lost only 8 on artificial turf. They didn't used to be that effective.
No, it wasn't.
2 out, and Carlton, the batter, that scored an error on Dauer. 1-0 the count. Dauer doesn't make many errors. What was it? A few years back, he had 80-some-odd consecutive errorless games at second base. As Carlton hits it down to Dauer, and he'll handle this one flawlessly. So the error does no damage except to make Morgan lead off in the next inning instead of Carlton. We'll go to the 5th, 2-0 Philadelphia. We're going to the 5th inning. Al Michaels, Howard Cosell, Earl Weaver. Game 3 of the World Series. Philadelphia 2, Baltimore nothing, and Rich Dauer to lead things off for the Orioles. Takes a strike. By the way, they've scored in a base hit now on De Jesus's grounder. There it is. You can see Dauer is right there. Then he's off balance, and it scored a single. Strike. Do you agree with that, Coach?
Yes, I do. I thought it was a proper call. I'd have called it a hit.
Just want to make sure, because I know the first time you don't agree, you're going to want to know who the scorers are.
Just watch Carlton.
1-2 the count.
Works so quickly, so purposefully.
He's allowed 1 hit thus far. And Dauer grounds it to third, and Schmidt has to stay with it as it skips through the dirt and makes the play. That's a nice play by Schmidt. A much tougher play than it looks as the ball comes through that dirt.
That was a Gold Glove play. He proved there the agility. The ball just hugged the ground on him. It looked like it was going to take a nice big hop about letter high and stayed right down. He was far enough away from that ball so he had time to react.
Yeah,
right?
but it took instant reaction to do it.
And that's why he's got a Gold Glove.
What a throw, too.
Cruz, the batter, takes outside. 1 ball, no strikes. By the way, I know, Howard, so many of the executives from baseball, of course, who are here, everybody wants to send their very best to Donald Davidson, who's battled back through so much in his life in a hospital right now in Houston, and we want to send Don our very best wishes for a very speedy recovery.
Marvelous man. Integral part of the game of baseball.
He certainly has been.
2-2 the count.
You're not going to hit Carlton swinging at those type of pitches.
You let Carlton off the hook. You're not going to hit him 9 times out of 10. There are exceptions, of course, but look at the way Steve is coming back in this inning.
Cruz grounds it on a hop, and there's Schmidt again. Why does he win a Gold Glove? Well, you just saw half the reason right there.
I thought he was supposed to be an offensive player in this.
He's certainly not one-dimensional, and up till a couple of years ago, he had very good speed as well.
He's a truly great baseball player. Period.
What reactions? Up comes the ball, up goes the glove, and an outstanding arm.
Dempsey is the batter, and he fouls it away.
The Orioles have a reason to be frustrated now.
Oh, absolutely. 2 balls were well hit that Schmidt put away.
Dempsey hits this one down the left field line and into the corner, and Gary Matthews will play the carom on the warning track and concede a double to Dempsey as he stands up at second.
We told you that little tiger adjusts, and there he is. Forget his batting average. He remains indomitable, the team leader.
As we see it again, meanwhile, Altobelli may go to the bench here for a pinch hitter.
He has moved up on the plate, and he's getting that breaking ball before it gets down.
So now the score 2-0. And with Dempsey at second base, Flanagan has not come out of the dugout, and Al Clark has his lineup card out at home plate, and that tells us all we need to know, that they're going to go to the bench right here.
Well, no one's come out. Looked like it might be a spot for Benny Ayala.
There is the marking of the lineup card in the Oriole dugout. Reminder, and following the game, following your late local news nightline, as you look at Ken Singleton who's coming up.
I wondered about that because I discussed that with Joe Altobelli in a pregame interview that we may yet have the opportunity to hear. And he talked about, yes, he's well aware of Ken Singleton and the need to get him into the lineup.
Ken Singleton is one player who will look for a breaking ball. And really, I don't expect him to be fooled by Carlton's slider. However, Carlton does have a good enough fastball to throw it by Kenny up if that's what he chooses to do.
Singleton is a switch hitter. It's his first appearance in the World Series. Carlton is not a total stranger because Singleton spent several seasons in the National League. 1-0 the count.
Left that first breaking ball alone.
Singleton hit .284 against righties and .262 this way.
He's always been a better hitter lefty than righty.
About 30 points difference.
2 balls, no strikes the count. 2 out. Dempsey at second base. 2-0 Philadelphia. Among other things, Singleton has always drawn a lot of walks. He takes a strike here. This year he was second to Ricky Henderson of the A's, and Singleton drew 99 walks this season. That's grounded and just foul outside third. Just foul. So a lot of activity in Schmidt's area. 2-2. Started to mention Nightline, as has been customary this week. Reggie will be down there along with Tom Lasorda, analyzing the game with Ted Koppel on the other end. 2 balls, 2 strikes the count. Three and 2 now. On deck is John Shelby, who's also a switch hitter. There he is. Shelby was the man who got the first hit off Carlton in the 4th inning, a ground single into center. (3-2) to Singleton. He got him looking. Steve Carlton picks up strikeout number 5. So they have just spent Singleton to no avail, and after 4.5, Philadelphia 2, Baltimore nothing. Jim Palmer is no stranger when it comes to the World Series. However, he is in this role. This is the 9th time Palmer has appeared in a World Series game, but never before as a relief pitcher. So here he comes in the bottom of the 5th inning. And this is all you ever dreamed about, Earl. Your chance to talk about Palmer, and he can't say anything.
The first thing I want to say, he can't say anything, but the first thing I want to say is this is the 3rd Cy Young Award winner in the same ball game. No wonder runs are hard to get.
That's right. That's right.
You realize all 5 Philadelphia runs thus far in this series have come from home runs?
And 2 of them from that man, Joe Morgan. He hit a home run in game 1, and he also hit a home run tonight. And here it was with Flanagan working. And as Earl mentioned, when he hit one off a breaking ball by McGregor and a fastball by Flanagan. Back in the 3rd.
Joe is 4 for 10 in this series, hitting .400.
Joe's out there proving to somebody that he can play regular next year, I believe.
So here's Morgan, grounded out and homered. In the series thus far, 4 for 10.
Greatest hitter in the history of the game, Vernon Gomez. What a marvelous guy. What a sense of humor. Looks great. What a pitcher.
Had a triple bypass, and when he woke up, the doctor said we had to give you a triple bypass. He said that's the only triple I ever hit in my life.
That's a strike, and the count 2 balls and 1 strike as one future Hall of Famer faces another. Palmer against Morgan in the 5th inning. Popped up, shallow right field, and DAUER takes charge there. Rich has it for the out, and Morgan is out number 1 in the 5th inning. Another look down. Veterans Stadium. Beautiful ballpark, a multi-purpose facility. It's located in just about what I guess you'd call South Philadelphia.
Yep.
Looking down from the Goodyear blimp, very close to the river.
And as I mentioned the other day, what a job they've done with this city. Just remarkable.
Lescano takes high for a ball.
They can throw away the old W.C. Fields WAG line on the tombstone. I'd rather be here than in Philadelphia, because this is one of the great cities of this country.
1-1 the count. Center and a base hit, and Shelby will cut it off. He'll cut it off deep, and Lescano for a moment thought about going to second as the throw comes back in. And I guess that's inexperience playing on AstroTurf, the way Shelby played that one.
Yes, it is. But one thing Shelby can do, he can play a ball that way because he has a powerful arm, as we saw, even though the throw is a little bit off the money. High fastball outside half. Shelby had this ball if he'd have on one hop. If he'd have charged and he backed up and got it, but that's a strong throw. It's off the base, but that's a powerful arm.
Tell you this, Palmer now has Schmidt and Matthews. He's got to hang tough. They could be out of this ball game in a hurry.
Palmer, I feel he's going to do a job. He's been wanting to get in one of these World Series games.
0-1 the count. Of course, it's been frustrating for Jim, who spent so much of the year on the disabled list, and that's why he hasn't started in postseason play. And Palmer said, well, I understand the reasoning. He's obviously somewhat frustrated and disappointed, but he gets away with kidding about it every time people talk to him, and you know they talk to him about it every day during the series. He makes light of it.
I think he's been very gracious in an uncomfortable situation.
Right, he perfectly put. Runner at first base is Lescano. 1 out. He did, remember, appear as a pinch runner, of all things, in the playoffs.
He's an outstanding athlete, still in real good condition.
Popped up a mile high, back of the plate, as Dempsey had to push Clark out of the way and makes the catch. Dempsey was fighting Clark off. The plate umpire was trying to get out of the way, and Rick was finally able to get around him.
Big out. Now let's see what he can do with Matthews. A big out. Low by Schmidt then could have terminated this contest.
Here we get a good shot of the umpire going back. Rick turned, and with his agility, he just doesn't give the umpire time to get out of the way. I've watched him push a lot of umpires away.
So Schmidt still hitless, 0 for 11 in the series, and Matthews is the batter. Matthews with 4 homers in postseason play, 3 in the playoffs, 1 tonight, plus a walk.
Palmer has a big leg kick, and you can steal on Palmer, and Lezcano knows that from being in the American League.
1-0.
I want to say that Palmer got Schmidt on a high fastball, letter high fastball. He looks like he's throwing the ball real good to me, and the ball looks like it might have that little pop on it that he used to have.
2-0 the count.
Palmer wanted that pitch.
He asked the umpire if it was inside.
Remember, it's been a couple of weeks since Palmer has pitched in a game. That's a strike, 2-1.
Matthews has become a killer. No question about it in postseason play. Gary himself is 3 out of 9 in this series.
Palmer, Earl mentioned the high leg kick, so relatively easy to steal on. And the count now 3-1 on Matthews.
Scheduled up next, remember, is Tony Perez. Should Matthews get on, it'll be interesting to see if a move is made by Owens. Nope.
Grounded to third, and Cruz goes the short way to DAUER. So Jim Palmer comes out of the bullpen and does the job, at least in the 5th inning. No runs, a hit, and a man left on. At the end of 5, 2-0 Phils. Back after this word from your local stations. Game moving along quickly, as did the first 2. Steve Carlton goes to work on the top of the Oriole order here in the 6th inning. Philadelphia on top 2-0 as Shelby stands in. Can't check his swing in time. He has struck out and singled.
Chased it. They can't fall back into that pattern if they're to have any hope for this ball game.
Shelby was the first fellow we noticed move closer toward the pitcher.
You get down to the late innings, and there's always Al Holland.
You know, we mentioned Clark normally gives the hitters the advantage. Normally gives, I should say, the pitchers the edge by calling borderline strikes, foul back. I don't know, maybe his thought process was turned around a little bit today, because there was an article in the paper about how much of a pitcher's umpire Clark is. Maybe he read it and said, ah.
That's exactly right. I don't think they like to see that.
Yep. Half swing, did he come around? Yes.
There it was, Howard.
Frank Foley made the call at first.
6th strikeout for Steve Carlton. The oldest pitcher in the majors ever to lead the league in strikeouts. The man before him was a guy I used to love watching growing up in Brooklyn. Dazzy Vance of the then Brooklyn Dodgers. He had that frayed shirt. The ball got lost.
Danny Ford hits a high drive to deep left field. Matthews goes all the way back into the corner and watches it sail into the bullpen.
We're not getting to see a lot of offense in this World Series, but we're certainly getting to see a number of home runs.
But what a great story Dan Ford is. The way he's come back from that beating, as Reggie described, who was beaten 3 times. What happened to him? And how he came out to batting practice and had balls thrown at his head. Look at the replay right there. This guy has come back and come back big. A great human interest story. Dan Ford.
2-1. And Ripken takes a strike. So this is almost a repeat of game 1. The other night it wound up 2-1. Morgan and Maddox hit homers for the Phils. Dwyer homered for Baltimore. And the runs tonight on home runs with a score 2-1.
So far in this series, the team that has scored first has lost the ball game.
It's an interesting fact, isn't it?
Two balls and 1 strike, the count on Ripken.
I tell you, these teams are tightly matched. Let's take a look at Ron Reed right there.
It's not time for Holland yet. Owens likes to use Holland from the 8th inning on. Fouled away. 2-2.
If Ron Reed comes into this game, we'll see some left-handed hitting come off of the bench for the Orioles.
Ripken chased that one.
Full count. To Schmidt. Over to Perez, who has to dig it out and can as it bounces off the box seat railing. So Perez cannot dig out the low throw by Schmidt. And so Mike, who made 2 very nice plays in the preceding inning, will get an error here.
Well, he is human.
He is human. The throw was low. Tony Perez has been playing a lot, and if a first baseman is in the lineup, he'll usually come up with that short hop. Throw was low, but not all that bad.
Now it's Murray again.
He has struck out and popped out. Well, I tell you, he's trying to make up for it in one swing, isn't he?
He sure was, and he was over-aggressive and over-eager, and Carlton worked him beautifully.
Yes, he did. And there's never been a ball hit out of this ballpark, and there never will. I'm talking about all the way out of the stadium, but Eddie Murray certainly is trying to do it now. He don't want to just reach the fence. He wants to put one in the street.
And it's 0-2. And you can bet if Carlton gives him a fastball, it's not going to be hittable. He's been throwing that breaking stuff, the hard breaking stuff in on him. And the count is 0-2.
He's deep in a hole already. You keep expecting him to do something, as you do Mike Schmidt. Hasn't happened in this series yet. Singular turn of events.
And down he goes. So there goes the Eddie chant. He's talking, well, he'd like to talk to himself. He said something to ROENICKE, whatever it was, but he's mumbling to himself as well, I'm sure, right now.
7th strikeout for Steve Carlton. What a performance.
ROENICKE is the batter, grounded out, hit into a double play. Strike and the count 0-1.
Those are perfect pitches right there.
The man is an artist. When Reggie said that he could be bigger than Benjamin Franklin, he drew upon American history. And in this town, for a day, he might be. But not totally, Rich.
2-1 the count. Tell you one thing, Ripken at first base is taking the shortest lead in the history of baseball. As you look at Debbie ROENICKE, Gary's wife. Ripken is a step and a half off first base as Carlton delivers, and it's grounded down to short. De Jesus will go to Morgan, and that's that in the 6th inning. Danny Ford, a high drive to deep left field that got out of here with 1 out, and after 5.5, 2-1 Philadelphia. Well, this has been taking place now for about a minute. Altobelli and Al Clark, the plate umpire. One thing he is not arguing about, we're trying to figure out what it is. It's not balls and strikes or he'd be gone. It's something else, Earl.
Well, it's not balls and strikes. Clark's doing a real good job. It could be Carlton's position on the mound, whether he is not pitching from in front of the rubber, but possibly on the side. And we'll be able to get a look at that when Carlton goes on the mound.
So Altobelli has had his say. And a reminder on Monday night, Washington against Green Bay on Monday Night Football. So the Super Bowl champs against the Packers at 9 o'clock Eastern time. Redskins, of course, off to a great start at 5-1. Pack 3-3. Al Clark, by the way, the plate umpire, is the son of a longtime Trenton, New Jersey sports writer. His dad is here covering the World Series. So we can't figure out what the argument was. If we're looking for a scoop, you know who's going to get it anyway. The Trentonian. Perez will lead off in the bottom of the 6th as Sammy Stewart starts to throw in the bullpen because Altobelli has to look ahead to Palmer coming up as a hitter, and he's due to bat 4th in the 7th inning.
Now we've got a ball on the field in right field. They're just running down and clearing the field. Thermos looked like a beach ball from here.
Yeah.
Palmer worked the hitters very well in the 5th inning. Jim has something to prove, he feels. And as Earl noted, he had some pop, some rise to his fastball in that inning.
Tony Perez takes up 5. Again, for anybody who tuned in late, Pete Rose, the big story before the game tonight, not in the lineup. His place taken by Tony Perez, his great and good friend and longtime teammate. There's Pete, who has spent a good part of this season in that position right there.
Well, he was obviously hurt and anguished. I thought he handled himself with dignity. 3 balls.
Not bad at all, Howard.
3-0 the count. And now 3-1 on Tony.
Thought there might be a possible pinch hit situation here, but Paul Owens might be looking on later in the game when Tippy Martinez would come in, a left-handed reliever, and he'd still have Tony Perez up.
3-2. Interesting. Here we are.
Good point.
Yep. Here we are, 1983. Go back to the 1970 World Series. Jim Palmer was facing Tony Perez 13 years ago. Baltimore against Cincinnati. Tony had a terrible series that year. Of course, that's the series that everybody will forever link with one name, Brooks Robinson.
Brooks says they don't remember I made a hero of Ron Swoboda.
That was 69.
I remember it well.
To right center, which has always been his power zone, but Shelby has great speed. Perez has made a whole career out of hitting doubles to the gap in right center, but Shelby got a great jump on the ball and hauls it in. And you can see why he's their center fielder of the future, the heir apparent to Bunbury.
Yeah, he went an awfully long way for that ball. Full speed. He's a real good outfielder with an outstanding arm. And someday might hit with some power.
Gary Maddox 0 for 2. Up 5 for a ball, 1-0 the count.
Leading by 1 run, Paul isn't making any moves prematurely.
2-1 Philadelphia. Gary Maddox, remember when Maddox came up, he was with the Giants. He came up, he was in an outfield with Gary Matthews in left, who's with him now, of course, and Bobby Bonds in right. And what an outfield that looked like it would be for a decade or more. And
I really thought Bonds would become an all-time great.
I did too.
Bonds did compile some outstanding statistics.
Fouled away. But the Giants thought they were set for 12 years. And then one by one off they went as you look at Claude Osteen and Bobby Wine leaning forward on the right and Paul Owens.
Those 2 men have been marvelous for Paul Owens.
One hopper fielded by the shortstop Ripken, and he gets him.
Not an easy play. That ball was hit hard.
Another look.
Good to see it again. Those ones that are hit right at you and right in front of your feet are some of the toughest in baseball. Cal Ripken Jr. handled himself well.
Bo Diaz 1 for 2. Diaz is 2 for 8 in the 3 games. 1-1.
Palmer's going with primarily fastballs. There's a good change.
Yep.
Change curve and the count 2-1. 3 homers in the game tonight. 7 home runs in the World Series thus far. And interestingly, all of them with the bases empty.
That's good pitching. You can't hit a 3-run homer unless 2 people get on the base.
So we've seen a lot of Dr. Long ball, but with no company is what it amounts to.
Exactly right, Al.
What you're saying is 2 teams evenly balanced, scratching and clawing at one another. And this may be the pivotal game.
Half left swing chopper going to be a tough play for anybody, and it's Ripken, and he can't come up with it. So 4 infielders gather round as Cruz came all the way over from third, and Ripken was charging, and DAUER was in the area, and even Palmer was going for it.
That's not bad baseball. That's just an AstroTurf hit, and one reason that people hit more on the turf than they do on grass. Just an easy ground ball that would have been right back to the pitcher on a grass field. Palmer went back, who's an outstanding fielder. Everybody's trying as hard as they can to get to the ball, and nobody could do a thing about it. Again, we see it from a different angle. All infielders converging.
He might have had him if Cruz hadn't.
I really don't think so, Howard. Of course, we had Bo Diaz running to first base, so there's always an outside chance.
Yes, indeed.
I just think it had bounced too high for anybody to get him at first.
Like one of those ping pong hits on the Dodger infield. You remember that?
Oh, sure.
Ivan De Jesus, 2 singles tonight, takes a strike. There's Carlton, he's on deck.
Palmer knows that Carlton's a good hitter.
In the dirt, that gets by Dempsey, and Diaz will go to second. So now you've got first base open with De Jesus at the plate, and the count 1 ball and 1 strike, and what's scored a wild pitch.
And now he'll become a little bit more careful with De Jesus. It's a changeup. Was meant to be a changeup that more or less just stuck in his fingers.
Here comes out the belly now to what, Earl? Ask Palmer if he'd rather pitch to Carlton than De Jesus?
That's exactly right, and that's what I'd be doing in that situation. You've got an experienced pitcher who knows what he wants to do. Joe will make sure in this situation, though, that Palmer doesn't go right down the middle.
Would you go out and literally ask the pitcher, or would you go out with an idea of your own in mind?
If it were a young pitcher, I'd make the decision for him. But if
with runners in scoring position this season at the plate, De Jesus hit .317 in these situations. High. Ball 2, 2-1.
Well, he didn't come close with that one.
Diaz at second, 2 down. 6th inning, and again Steve Carlton waiting on deck.
If I were in the dugout, I would have liked to have that statistic that you just mentioned.
Yeah. 3-1. Someday you'll all have computers down in that dugout. You can punch it up.
It definitely would help you make up your mind.
Lefty waiting. And he walks him. So your basic unintentional intentional walk.
That's exactly what it was.
So
in the
Carlton
meantime,
come up.
the wild pitch was the key.
Well, Owens is checking to see how Carlton feels. Carlton has made a decision that he feels good. He's going to give him a couple more. No, not he. What Owens was asking him really is, how do you feel? We've got a chance to get some runs. Carlton says, I can get him out for another couple innings, possibly the rest of the game, and that helped Owens make up his mind.
So Steve Carlton, who is 0 for 2, has grounded out twice. Good hitter through the years. Doesn't get cheated at the plate. So again, another future Hall of Fame matchup. Palmer facing Carlton. Up high, ball 1. Speed gun's been clocking Palmer, by the way, at about 84, 85, so he's in the mid-80s tonight.
Looks faster than that, you know, Al?
From up here he does, yeah.
He does look a lot harder than that, but really the speed isn't what gets Palmer by. It's that little hop on the ball. But he's lost his poise right now. This is a man he wants to get. He don't want to go by the pitcher. He don't want to go by Steve Carlton. He's got to go after him.
Palmer, who has won 3 Cy Young Awards, pitching to Carlton, who's won 4, and the count 2 balls and no strikes. And lefty got the green light, 2-1.
Right there, that gives you an idea. of Owen's awareness of Carlton's ability to hit, and especially to hit the long ball.
2 balls, 2 strikes to count.
Palmer and Eddie Murray have a pretty good pickoff play between them at first base with men on first and second. If the count goes to 3-2, it would mean that the runners might be running, and they have an outstanding pickoff play in that situation.
And Steve Carlton strikes out, so Palmer lives dangerously, but comes out the winner in the 6th. And at the end of 6 full, the score remains Phillies 2, Orioles 1. Well, just in case, as we go to the 7th inning, Al Holland begins to loosen up lightly in the 7th inning with Rich Dauer leading off and hitting it in the air to right field and curling into the corner, but Lescano is there. 1 pitch and 1 out here in the 7th inning, and it'll bring up Todd Cruz, who has walked and grounded out. Coming up tomorrow, college football, it'll be Nebraska #1, Missouri, the opponent, and that follows World Series game #4, 12:30 Eastern time. That's 9:30 on the coast tomorrow for the beginning of our day here.
Nebraska lucky to get past Oklahoma State, 14-10.
1 ball, no strikes to count on Cruz. 1-1.
Cruz looks like he's swinging to hit one out of this park now.
Schmidt, he's right there this time. He's in the 3rd and throws him out.
Guy's a vacuum cleaner.
He owns that spot. And he's right up against the line here, protecting a 1-run advantage. Here he is. Right there.
He knows how to play that dirt part of that turf.
Yeah.
Which is strange for players who don't play there all the time, play on artificial turf all the time.
Dempsey, the batter, takes outside. Of course, Mike has a tremendous amount of experience. He spent his whole career here in this ballpark, and so many of the surfaces around the National League are artificial turf. He's right at home. 2-0 the count. Steve Carlton began his career, of course, with the Cardinals, and then to the Phillies in 1972. And that was the season the team won 59 games and Carlton won 27. It was the only thing they had to cheer about, and won the Cy Young. Fouled away. That's Carlton's 99th pitch, so 100 pitches coming up here in the 7th inning with 2 out. 2-1.
Well, there was a time when Carlton would be just as strong after the 140th as he was on the 1st.
Well, if Rick gets on, Benny Ayala will be up. He's at the bat rack.
Now the count is full. 3 balls, 2 strikes.
You get an education watching Carlton pitch.
Fastballs away, sliders in and down.
The man is the greatest.
Crowd noise building. They want to see strike 3. He has struck out 7 so far. And that's drilled to the gap in left center field, and Maddox will have to play it off the wall on a hop. Plays it perfectly, and Dempsey has another double.
That little tiger can drive you crazy. Look at him. Most deceiving man with a batting average you'll ever see.
Into the 3rd game of the World Series, he's got a few votes for most valuable player.
Oh, you're back to that. We got a long way to go.
A long way to go.
Little tiger, huh, old Dempsey? Oh, you got to get the Lions mad at you now. Dempsey at second. He has 2 of the 4 hits.
Now this guy can surprise you. I mentioned the other day that in the '79 series between the Birds and the Bucks, Candelaria was going full speed. There's Osteen going out to talk to Steve, see how he feels, whether or not he's weary. And Ayala blasted Candelaria. You remember it well, Earl. Home run.
Yes, I do. And
Holland in the pen.
And what they're talking about on the mound right now is their scouting report of Benny Ayala, whether they should throw him breaking balls or whether they should throw him fastballs.
The scouting report is that he's a poor hitter.
Who can hurt you with one swing of the bat.
That's right.
Because Benny can go deep. You just mentioned that, Howard. But Benny Ayala is a fellow who's not afraid to walk up to that plate and look for the slider on the inside half and give Carlton all the fastballs he wants to throw at times.
Oh, how he has
Second first and don't get the call.
I thought that was a swing. He really works ahead of Carlton. He has them chasing.
That's exactly.
Oh, yeah.
you know what Ayala really is? He's a typical Baltimore situation player.
1-0 pitch to him is low and inside. 2-0 now.
Both sliders. That's exactly the pitch Benny went up there to hit. He got that pitch and was still fooled on it.
You saw Epi Ayala. There's Dempsey at second base with 2 down. 2-1 Philadelphia. In the dirt, gets away from Diaz, and moving up to third is Dempsey. So Carlton bouncing one, and that's a wild pitch charge to Steve.
They do scratch and claw, don't they, Al?
Well, it's been an interesting series, and I think well put by you the other night, Howard, in the sense as you look again at the advancement here, that for people who really like baseball, these have been 3 very good games. If you tune in at the end of the year and that's it, and if you equate excitement with offense, then maybe it's a little disappointing.
Well, the count's 3-0, and I would think that Benny's got to go ahead if it's the type of pitch he wants. Count shouldn't be 3-0, though, Howard. You were right.
I agree.
Shelby is on deck. And Ayala swings away and fouls it off.
Call that very well, Skipper.
That's not his pitch either, the fastball, but you got to look for it on 3-0.
Way to read Ripken's signs. Liner by Schmidt, and Dempsey comes in to score.
Like I said, a Baltimore situation player.
And that was a slider on the inside half of the plate, the pitch that Benny went up there to look for. And here comes Paul Owen.
Again, he fell behind, 3-1. And a line drive base hit, so with 2 out, Dempsey a double, the base hit by Ayala, the pinch hitter. We're tied, and Carlton is gone. As Owens goes to the mound, Epi Ayala happy about the turn of events here, so Carlton has to come out, and Al Holland will come in with 2 out of the 7th inning.
Well, there may be a psychological impact here. They're against the biggest man in the world and what he does, Steve Carlton. They're down 2-0, bases filled, none out, they don't even score. They could have died, but they didn't. That's why it's an interesting series. We'll be right back.
Well, here he is, Al Holland, and he has just begun to warm up right now. It takes him a long time to prepare the mound to his satisfaction. But once he's in there, he just says, give me the ball. And he'll be facing John Shelby with Ayala at first base.
Ayala has good speed, Al, but he is not a good base runner. Yet, Holland and Diaz have had 13 bases stolen on them in 14 attempts.
That's the information that you'd like to have gotten from your scouts if you're sitting in the dugout.
Well, you wonder why not put in a pinch runner for Ayala, since he's admittedly not a good base runner.
Well, as you said, he's got good speed, Howard, and there's a possibility that Joe Altobelli might send him, but I really don't think he'll go in this situation.
So Shelby will be coming up. A game in which the Phillies picked up single runs in the second and third. And there's Sammy Stewart. He'll be coming in because Ayala pinch hit for Palmer. So we'll see Sammy in the bottom of the seventh. And then Baltimore has gotten even on a home run by Ford in the sixth. And here in the seventh inning, a double by Dempsey and a single by Ayala. And it's 2-2 in game 3. Matchup tomorrow, John Denny and Storm Davis. And remember, it's a day game tomorrow, 12:30 Eastern time, 9:30 a.m. on the West Coast tomorrow. Shelby, 1 for 3 tonight, 2 for 6 in the series. Grounded to the hole, base hit. So 3 consecutive hits, and runners now at first and second. And Dan Ford will be coming up.
Ford's a good fastball hitter, but I don't think Holland's going to change his pitching pattern. He never has.
Ford is grounded out, walked, homered. One other thing about Holland, as far as base runners are concerned, the Phillies will tell you in the infield, when he's in there, he doesn't pay very much attention to him. He says, give me the ball, it's me and the batter. And he's the fellow who told George Foster earlier this season, get in the box, after Foster had homered against him. Strike on 1.
He was after that first fastball, but that had something on it.
He was looking for it. Against a pitcher like this, Ford will normally hit to right or right center. Normally, not always.
One and one. He really looks the part, though, of a mean, tough relief pitcher, a guy who comes out of the bullpen. If you ever hear him speak, he's got the perfect voice. He's got that grainy, gravelly voice.
Reminds me, in some ways, though he has totally different pitching techniques using the fastball, of Sal Magley, the barber. He can frighten you with a leer.
1-2 the count.
Some resemblance, too, to Raboski, when Raboski was a hot pitcher. Remember, Al?
Well, they had Hungarian had some tremendous years. That was one of the great acts in all of baseball.
That was a good act. I enjoyed that one myself.
Wonderful. 1 ball, 2 strikes. One hopper hit sharply off De Jesus' glove, and Ayala rounds third, and he will score. So the Orioles lead it by a score of 3-2. Ivan may have started to come up before he had it.
Hard hit ball that was hooking, and not an easy play, but a play that Ivan De Jesus usually makes. Dan got the bat around on this fastball, hit it hard. You can see it hooked right on that picture there. He got down in front of it and tried to block it to keep that runner from second base going in, but just couldn't handle it.
So it's 3-2. We'll wait and see how they score it. And with 2 out, 2 runs in, and Ripken is the batter. It's an error. They have given De Jesus an error on the play. Foul back.
There have been shortstops I've seen play in the major leagues that didn't want any part of that ball. De Jesus tried to get in front of it, tried to keep it in front of it, just couldn't do it.
Especially on AstroTurf. So the crowd has been quieted down now by the circumstances in the 7th inning, which started innocently enough, the first 2 men going out. In the air to center field, and the Secretary of Defense Maddox is there to wrap up the inning. But a fruitful one for Baltimore as they get 2 runs, 3 hits, a big error, and a couple left after 6.5 at the bench. It's 3-2 Orioles. Back after these words from your local stations. New pitcher for Baltimore is Sammy Stewart, who comes on in relief of Flanagan and Palmer. Sammy Stewart working with the lead, and of course back of him the Orioles also have that fellow, Tippy Martinez.
What a year he's had.
9 wins, 21 saves, and underwent an appendectomy in mid-season.
But Earl, I think Altobelli's strategy is obvious here. They've got a substantially right-handed hitting lineup now. Put in Stewart and force Owens to make the moves to bring up the Greg Grosses of the world.
They're going to be putting a uniform on you and put you in the dugout to do some managing here. You're going to get the Cubs job or the Cleveland job or some job.
I don't want the Cubs job, and they wrote in New York, you were getting the Cleveland job and part ownership. But I had dinner with Gabe Paul and Phil Segui last night, and they never heard of the story.
They probably never heard of me.
By the way, there's a delay here because there's a fan on the field, and we're not going to show it. They'll get him out of here in a second, and we'll get underway. So, as the security forces take care of the stray fella, we'll bring Reggie Jackson in for a word. And your thoughts at the moment, Reg?
Well, right now, I think the Baltimore Orioles have shown that they're going to stick with it. They're going to hang in there. You don't get to a World Series by not really playing well all season long. They've had a tough go trying to score runs. Eddie Murray has had a tough time, as we all know. And the nice thing about it is that Baltimore bench, that so-called Baltimore Magic, has seemed to have risen to the occasion. Steve Carlton sailing along, and all of a sudden, a few base hits, a walk here and a walk there. And the fear of facing Steve Carlton when he's on a roll is what Baltimore's after right now.
Reg, that's typical of the Baltimore team's character. It took Rick Dempsey with 2 outs to start the thing going. And that Tiger is always in there.
Well,
then
that's
the Baltimore situation player, which you talked about in the very first telecast, Benny Ayala. And then what a human interest story Dan Ford has become because of his ability to come back from the sculling. And
That's
go ahead.
very, very true, Howard. Let's get back to the game here and see what guys like Mr. Morgan and people like that can do.
First thing to Morgan is a fastball high. First thing that Joe looks at, and the count is 1 ball and no strikes. Foul back, and the count is 1-1. Morgan, Lezcano, and Schmidt are due up.
Sammy Stewart had a great second half. Ray Miller, the pitching coach, told me before the ball game that Sammy was now getting the 4 of his pitches over the plate. He throws the ball 90 miles an hour. He's got a good overhand curveball. He's got a slider and a decent enough change to keep him off stride.
1 ball, 2 strikes the count. Morgan with 2 home runs in the series. He's 4 for 11 in the series, and that pitch just misses. 2 balls, 2 strikes on Joe.
Well, Philadelphia isn't going to quit either, and this game's far from over. They've got
Absolutely.
1/3 of their innings left. Game's only 2/3 over.
Fouled away, and the count 2-2 on Joe.
Love the way Morgan hangs in.
On the man who has drawn more walks than any man in the history of the National League. The all-time leader would be Babe Ruth. Morgan pops it up in foul ground and back out of play. Paul Owens, at the age of 59, came down from the front office to replace Pat Corrales. A tremendous hand when he was introduced tonight.
12:30 Eastern time tomorrow.
And Morgan is aboard. So the decibel count begins to build as the Phillies get the leadoff man on. Morgan draws the walk. And Sixto Lezcano is the batter. It's interesting in the sense the Phillies have been platooning in right field. Now they've got a right-hander in there. 7th inning. He could think about LaFay, but he opts to go with Lezcano.
Well, I think Lezcano will be bunting here. That gives him Mike Schmidt coming up and the hot hitter Gary Matthews. Picture of the infield from high in at double play depth.
Morgan, who still can run at the age of 40. 681 lifetime steals and 18 this season, and he was caught only twice. And he was hurt a good part of the year. That's bunted in the air and back over the screen.
Morgan had an excellent lead then, Earl. Did you notice he had that right foot out on the AstroTurf?
From the roof here, we'll watch if the Orioles have a play on and how the defense.
Cruz should be charging.
He is, and it's fouled away again, so it's 0-2 now on Lezcano.
Well, now there's a chance that Morgan might be running. Try to stay out of the double play. If Owens had known that Lezcano was going to foul off 2 pitches after he had put on the sacrifice, we would have seen a pinch hitter, but you don't know that until after the man has failed to sacrifice.
Sure. See that last pitch stinging the hands of Lezcano. He's back in. And it's strike 3 called. So Sexto goes up there to bunt, can't do that, then takes a call, 3rd strike, and a few boos cascade down upon him. Breaking pitch on the corner. That's the last thing in the world he was looking for right there.
The way these 2 teams are going at one another, Al, this series is taking on more and more of the sustained dramatic character of the Houston-Philadelphia playoff series in 1980. And here is Mike Schmidt.
And Schmidt is due. 0 for 3 tonight. 0 for 11 in the series.
And with Gary Matthews hitting behind him and a home run already tonight, the Baltimore pitchers might be more apt to give in to Schmidt than they would when this series started.
Schmidt had a great playoff series. 7 for 15. Morgan goes, gets a good jump. It's high, throw down to second, and they get him. And there is the arm of Rick Dempsey, because Morgan got a pretty good jump on Stewart, good enough to normally steal second base. And Dempsey's throw is right there.
What has happened right here is that now it gives Sammy Stewart a chance to work carefully on Mike Schmidt. However, when Joe Morgan started to go, he did have a good jump. He had a good lead. They underestimate that arm of Rick Dempsey.
Yep. 1-0 pitch, swing and a miss. You might wonder, why would Morgan be going in a situation like that? He knows, I mean, he's a veteran. Obviously, Joe felt he had it stolen. He felt, if I can get that good jump, nobody's going to throw me out.
Nobody gets the ball away more quickly than Dempsey, nor more accurately.
Now,
Eddie Murray is questioning the count with the first base umpire.
Scoreboard has it 1 ball and 1 strike. Out the belly. Back into the dugout, and Mike Schmidt will stand back in. The count, well, I think what he was questioning was what was the pitch to Morgan.
The first pitch.
The first pitch, exactly. When Morgan was thrown out, we know the second one was a swinging strike. And the count 1-1. Now 1-2. Without the 1-0, he apparently thought the first pitch was a strike. 91-mile-per-hour fastball thrown by Stewart.
Up and out of the strike zone. Mike Schmidt has to leave that pitch alone. At 91 miles an hour anyway.
1-2 the count. 2-2. They give Schmidt a lot of room on the right side. DAUER is pushed over toward the middle, especially look at the infield defense, and they've got Murray very close to the line of PEREZ. Schmidt does go to right on occasion, but is normally a pull hitter. 3-2.
Morgan has good power to right. When he goes to right, there's a chance that the ball might go out the ballpark.
Schmidt, you mean? 3-2 pitch is swung on and missed, and Mike is gone. So Sammy Stewart comes out of the bullpen to strike out a couple. He does his Holland invitation. And we'll see Al facing the Orioles in the 8th. It's 3-2 Baltimore. Vaughn Hayes has now taken over in right field as we start the top of the 8th inning. Al Michaels, Howard Cosell, Earl Weaver with you for Game 3. Baltimore on top 3-2, and Eddie Murray. And that, of course, goes back to what happened in 1979. 1 for 32 in his last 32. 0 for 3 tonight. Fouled back.
If there's one thing both of these teams have, it's character. Both of them. And you must say this for the Birds in fairness. They have moved ahead without this man contributing.
A strike, and the count is 0-2.
They haven't got much from the young shortstop yet either, Howard. Cal Ripken.
That's interesting in light of the fact that Ripken and Murray really have to carry this team, and yet here they are even in the series of a game apiece and leading in Game 3 without their key men hitting.
Schmidt, of course, balancing off from the Phil's side.
In the air to right field. Hayes started in and now drifts back and makes the catch on the edge of the warning track. One away in the 8th inning. Danny Ford foreground and Benny Ayala behind him. Two of the key men tonight for the Orioles. Ford hitting a 6th inning homer, and Ayala the pinch 7th inning single to tie the game, and then he came in to score the go-ahead run.
You know, if Ayala never batted till the next World Series time, he's still worth having on your ball club.
Roenicke is 0 for 3. 1-0 the count. 3 runs, 6 hits, and an error for Baltimore. 2 runs, 8 hits, and 2 errors for the Phillies, and one of them, the one by De Jesus, is the difference in the game right now.
Frank Robinson saw Benny Ayala play in Puerto Rico when he was managing down there, and he came highly recommended by Frank Robinson, and I don't know who would be a better guy to take his word.
2-1. Robbie could use him in San Francisco right now.
That's true.
No, he's not going to give up Jack Clark for him, though, I'll tell you that. Two balls, 2 strikes, the count. From the Goodyear Blip, Veterans Stadium, packed, of course. See the spots on the field, the dark spots, the rain last night, a lot of rain. We would have had a rain out for Game 3 last night as Roenicke goes down swinging.
This game still has a long way to go. And wouldn't it be ironic if we saw Pete Rose in the role of a pinch hitter, benched tonight, openly anguished by it and embarrassed, if we saw Pete Rose tonight in the role of a pinch hitter getting the big hit?
Well, it happened quite often down the stretch in the regular season. Rose, in similar circumstances, would come up with a key hit. Dauer looks at a strike.
And there's a good chance of that happening, because I believe that if Paul Owens start using left-handed hitters, Joe Altobelli will have to come in with Tippy Martinez, and Rose, being a switch hitter, can hit from either side to play.
Another strike, and the count is 0-2.
Dauer didn't seem to like it, but Holland is making some very good pitches. In fact, when he struck out Roenicke, he looked just like Steve Carlton. 2 hard fastballs and a slider in under the hands.
And he strikes him out. 93 was the clocking right there. So Al Holland is in normal form, and at the end of 7.5, 3-2 Orioles. Gary Matthews coming up, and the crowd cheering as Gary approaches the plate because of this second inning. Mike Flanagan was the Orioles starter, and Mr. Matthews did this for the 4th time in postseason play. Hit a homer. So here he is to lead off now in the bottom of the 8th inning against Sammy Stewart, and he looks at his strike. He'll be followed by PEREZ and Maddox. 1-1 in the Oriole pen again, Tippy Martinez.
Well, there's 65,000 people in the stands trying to help. Sometimes that acts as a 10th man.
1-2, especially in this ballpark. Noisy fans, of course, and as you look around, you can see it's enclosed and the sound stays in. And this place really rocks. Matthews was ducking down from a pitch that almost got the inside corner.
This pitch, of course, critical. These fans, a very special factor. Look at that pitch again. I'll explain why in a moment.
2 balls and 2 strikes. Stewart shaking Dempsey off a couple of times because he wants to throw the fastball and gets him.
And he threw it.
Now, Earl, was he shaking him off because he wanted to throw the fastball, or were they just trying to deceive Matthews and give Gary something to think about?
We do both of them. We really do. Here comes the strikeout, threw the ball right by him. But that curveball had set up that fastball. But yes, the catcher at times does give the pitcher a shake-off sign just to confuse the hitter.
Perez takes outside, ball 1.
3 strikeouts consecutively for Sammy Stewart.
This is the way we've seen Sammy Stewart pitch as a rookie, and Ray Miller told me before the ball game that he did this the second half of the year consistently.
2-0. Storm Davis will pitch tomorrow. There he is. And that's a 12:30 Eastern time start, so it'll be a short night for these two teams. 9:30 a.m. West Coast tomorrow morning, game 4.
Won't be any longer for us either.
Nope, Stewart taking more time now.
Perez gets under it. Mile high pop, shallow left field. Ripken going out and makes the play. So 2 down, and Gary Maddox will be the batter. Maddox 0 for 3. Reggie Jackson will be on Nightline tonight. Tommy Lasorda will be there talking with Ted Koppel about the game. Howard mentioned Lasorda here before. Tommy, of course, is doing some columns for USA Today during the series. So I said, oh, there he is, the old columnist. He said, I'm a correspondent. I said,
One of my favorite people on earth. There's a book coming out shortly. Ryder took a poll, 2 players of each team in the majors, and the most enthusiastic fans by vote were these, the Philadelphia fans. So they do have an impact.
Foul back, and the count 1 ball and 1 strike. Of course, they've gotten used to winning. They had a long history of losing. Then, of course, the Phillies got hot in the mid-70s, and so did the Philadelphia Flyers, and the 76ers are the defending NBA champs. And, of course, the Eagles went to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, so everything turned around in this city.
One of the great sports cities anywhere in the world.
Outside, 2-1 to count. Shatters his bat as he splinters it, and Cruz throws to first to get him. So Sammy Stewart sets the side down in order, and we'll go to the 9th at the vet. The score, Baltimore 3, Philadelphia 2. Back after this message and a word from your local stations. So we go to the 9th inning with Todd Cruz to lead things off. Then Rick Dempsey, then Sammy Stewart, who figures to hit for himself the way he's going. Al Holland starts the 9th inning by delivering a fastball that is popped up. Joe Morgan is in the neighborhood along with Maddox. 1 pitch and 1 out. That takes care of Cruz, and now we'll see Dempsey. Now, when the Phillies come up in the bottom of the 9th inning, due up Diaz, De Jesus, and then Holland's spot. On the bench, the left-hand batters, Greg Gross and Joe LaFay, and of course the switch hitter Pete Rose. Right-hand hitter Bob Denier. As you look at Dempsey, who has 2 doubles tonight. But
I suggest that up to this moment, Dempsey is the hero tonight.
Well, he doubled in the 5th inning. That didn't lead to anything, but then he doubled in the 7th inning, and that got him started. Coming in to score on Ayala's base hit.
Earl, I don't understand why Owens hasn't made a move yet to bring up some of those lefties.
The only thing that you can think is that he does not want Tippy Martinez in the ballgame. Tippy's been up, loosening up ever since Stewart came in.
0-2 the count. By the way, if you're wondering about Von Hayes in right field, taking over in the last inning, word on Liscano. Remember you saw him in a little bit of agony after he tried to bunt in his last time at bat. A little contusion on the hand, and thus he's out of the game. No balls, 2 strikes the count here. And that's that for Rick Dempsey.
What a pitch.
All through the series, each time a pitcher's come in, he's looked better than the pitcher before. And we've seen some outstanding pitching.
So here's Sammy Stewart. In Vegas right now, the odds are, I think, about 1,000 to 1 that Stewart will get a hit off Holland.
More than that.
Not a bad swing.
But if they were more than that, you'd have to give it a shot.
Right. Absolutely.
I'll still never understand the Giants trading this man.
Along with Morgan. In that deal, they picked up, among others, Mike Krukow and Mark Davis. 0-2. There's Edward Bennett Williams, owner of the Baltimore Orioles.
He's a remarkable man. You have no idea of how tense he is during a game.
That's true.
Well, his heartbeat will jump a couple of notches as the Phillies will come up in the bottom of the 9th inning. His Orioles are on top as we've played 8.5 in Game 3 of the 1983 World Series. Orioles leading 3-2. Gorgeous shot of Veterans Stadium, and LaFay is going to lead off in the 9th inning, and Altobelli is going to the mound. LaFay has been announced as the pinch hitter for Bo Diaz. Now he's got Tippy Martinez in the bullpen, and that's something you rarely see. An inning begins with a pinch hitter being announced and the manager going to the mound. You almost never see that.
Well, it is rare, but I've seen it happen before. And that's what Altobelli was waiting for, the first left-handed pitch hitter. And it's a gutsy move.
Okay, so Martinez will come in, and we'll find out how Owens will counter in the bottom of the 9th inning. 3-2 Baltimore. We'll be right back.
For 15 years, they followed his track. A big, lean guy they called Big Mac. He's the leader of the pack.
Let's get him.
McDonald's Great Big Mac. Pure lean beef, special sauce and cheese, pickles and onions.
Big Mac, please.
They're fresh off the grill, 7 stories tall. He's the most wanted of them all. Leader of the pack, Big Mac. McDonald's and you.
Kodak presents a breakthrough in color photography for the best color pictures ever from Kodak. A film for detailed color. A film for vibrant color. A film for fast action color. Even a film for low light color. New Kodacolor VR, 100, 200, 400, 1000 speed films.
Don't miss it. Unbeaten Nebraska, the #1 team in the nation, battles the upset-minded Missouri Tigers. ABC's NCAA college football tomorrow.
So the strategy proceeds as expected. Martinez brought in. You will not see LaFay. You will see Pete Rose right there. And I'll tell you, this ballpark is going crazy. Look at this very sign. That tells you how they feel about this man. One of the greatest competitors, one of the greatest ball players yet to have lived. Benched tonight in a late-breaking story, which we covered fully in the pre-game show. And gone for the moment because of the kind of competitor he is the anguish and the hurt of that benching. As he said in that show, we've got to win the World Series. We can't have any distractions now. Take it, Al.
Well, Pete Rose, interestingly, this year, a bad year for Pete at 245, but right-handed, he had 283. Something that hasn't happened very often in his career. He hit 48 points higher from this side than the other. And he's 8 for 22 during the regular season as a pinch hitter, so he may not love this role, but he's adjusted to it rather well. A strike, 0-1.
Tippy's been Altobelli's bread and butter man all year, and I feel he couldn't wait to get him in. Sammy Stewart had been throwing the ball excellently. It's a gutsy move, but a good move by Joe Altobelli.
No question.
And that's another strike to Rose, and so the count is 0-2. Martinez, you'll recall, pitched the pennant-clinching game in Chicago last Saturday, and what a performance that was by him. As Rose fouls it away. That reminded everybody of Don Stanhouse. He was in trouble all the way down the line and then waited,
Exactly
and they him at the home run, and they won 3-0.
Meanwhile, there is Pete Rose, who finds a way to beat you more often than not.
Low.
And has for so many years. There's Pete's son, as absorbed with this situation as his dad.
And 65,000 others, Aaron.
Again fouled away. 1 ball, 2 strikes, count holding. Pete brought his son, Pete Jr., in from Cincinnati for the weekend series. And Rose hits a grounder to the left side. Cruz over to first. So Pete grounds out, and there's 1 down here in the 9th inning. 1 away. And Devon De Jesus, the batter. He's had a perfect night. And he won't even, he will come up with Ozzie Virgil now coming out on deck.
I don't suppose there was a time in Pete's career when he more wanted to get a base hit because of tonight's circumstances. But Martinez equal to the occasion.
That's the truth, Howard. There's no doubt about that.
0-1 the count. 65,792 looking on. 1-1.
Mrs. Martinez, Carol Martinez.
In the air to right center field. Shelby going back and makes the play at the edge of the warning track. So De Jesus, who does not really have a lot of power, he's got track power as they call it, hits one to the track. 2 down. So now it will be Ozzie Virgil, the backup catcher, and a man who won a very dramatic game against the Giants in early September here with a 2-out grand slam home run in the 9th inning.
And the scouting report on Ozzie Virgil is a fastball hitter. They say he looks fastball almost every pitch, and I doubt it very much if Tippy Martinez throws him a fastball in the strike zone.
And the grand slam home run he hit that you mentioned, Al, against the team that his father played for.
His dad, former Giant and now a coach at San Diego. 1-0 the count. Joe Altobelli, his club is 1 out away from going up 2-1, and he sends Storm Davis tomorrow against John Denny. 12:30 Eastern time. Chopper to short. Ripken waits, throws to first, and the Orioles take the lead in the series. Tippy Martinez and Sammy Stewart out of the bullpen to preserve it as Philadelphia takes the early lead, and then Baltimore comes from behind to win it.
Earl, I don't suppose from Baltimore's point of view there could be a bigger victory. They beat mythology in Steve Carlton. They seemed beaten when they didn't score with the bases loaded and nobody out. And Eddie Murray had failed them again. But they did it.
It was an outstanding ball game, Howard. We saw one of the better World Series games, and now Baltimore leads 2-1.